Hello and welcome to this InflectraCON 2023 virtual bonus session. InflectraCON will be held from April 19th through the 21st in Washington, D.C. on the campus of Gallaudet University. We are looking forward to 3 days of customer training, partner meetings, industry sessions, networking, and more. Check us out at www.inflectracon.com. In this session, we hear from KG Butler, General Manager at TTC Global. Let's get started with this virtual bonus session entitled Secret Tools for Leadership and Innovation.
Hello and welcome to InflectraCON 2023. My name's KG and I cannot wait to share with you the secret tools for leadership and innovation. This is a talk not only for technologists like yourself, but for anyone looking to lead themselves or their family into any situation, so I cannot wait to share. Now let's get right into it. The first thing I want to do is ask you a couple of questions. How do some leaders inspire and create a mass of loyal followers while others fail to motivate? And how do some organizations challenge the status quo to succeed again and again? The truth is, it's because they've either found or discovered the right tools and they use them over and over again. That's how it's done. And again, my name is KG. I am the author of the book 10 Leading Tools. This is a book all about helping you lead yourself and others to success. And today I'm going to share with you some of those tools and how they can impact you and your team. I know that this group is all about technology. I know that we are various levels within an organization, within your team, and sometimes we fail to think that leadership is all about us. And what I want to let you know is that leadership is about all of us. All of us lead in small ways throughout our day, throughout our week, and this is an opportunity for you to just get some little tips and tricks that may help you along the way. So the first thing I want to do is talk to you about the tools that I've developed in this book. I have 10 of them. And the first tool is all about pot. No, not that kind of pot. Hold on. This is not that kind of video. This is about the best kind of pot. This is a pot we call purpose over task. Again, that's purpose over task. If you struggle with a sense of direction, if you find it hard to make decisions for yourself, your family, or your career, understanding when to use purpose over task is key. And now I'll explain a little bit. This particular tool I discovered while working with the folks at Disney. It goes way back to the beginning of Disneyland, Disney World, and the whole Disney franchise. So Disney had a really simple philosophy. His philosophy, when he started the theme parks especially, was that everyone contributes to the organization's success. It doesn't matter if you're a janitor or a leader of a department. Everyone has the same responsibility to make magic happen throughout the theme parks. Actually, Disney was quite famous for a long time requiring everyone, no matter what your role was, to work in the parks for a short period of time, just to understand how this works. So, going back to purpose over task, or POT, I'll start the story by letting you know that I actually have a long history with Disney. I've loved the Disney theme park since I was a kid. I actually visited there for the first time in 1981. And just recently, me and my family did the same thing. We visited it together, and it was my son's first visit to Disney. It's a magical place, and what they have done is create something that we can use in our everyday life, and that is this concept of purpose over task. Actually, the Disney organization has a little known value called purpose versus task. And I've over time changed that to purpose over task as I've used it in my own life and with my teams and in my organizations. So let me start with just a little bit of a story, and it'll help you understand a little bit more about why purpose over task can be a tool that you can use. All right, so I've got a little bit of a quiz for you. Take a look at the photo here and tell me what you see. All right, that makes sense. What do you think? You see a lady who looks like she's maybe having fun, or a janitor or something. It looks like she's got a broom. So it is hard to tell from this, but let me now give you a little bit of the background and it'll help you understand what you're seeing. So when Disney sees this happening, what they see is someone living their values. So what you're seeing is this lady in white. Her name is Jenny. She is a janitor at the theme park, and her job is to make sure that the theme park is sparkling clean. So let me tell you a little bit more about what you see. See those little girls right behind Jenny? They came in like most people, expecting to have a great time and looking forward to enjoying themselves at the park. In particular, these girls wanted to see Cinderella's castle. So they came in with all the anticipation that you could expect and excited to see Cinderella's castle. However, as they entered the park, they decided to stop off and get some ice cream. The three little girls grabbed the ice cream, started enjoying it, but one little girl still had ice cream left and splat. She dropped the ice cream on the pavement. But luckily, Jenny was on the scene, right? Jenny understood what happened. She saw the whole thing happen, and her instinct was to go clean up that ice cream because that's what she should do. That's the task. That's what she's paid to do, and that was what Jenny's intent was. However, when she thought about it, she thought about the day that was planned for those little girls, and she thought how much anticipation they had to have a great time at Disney. And she noticed that the girl was bawling her eyes out, crying because she had dropped her ice cream. So what did Jenny do? Instead of just sweeping up the ice cream like she's expected to do, what she did was take her broomstick and lead those little girls in a parade down the boulevard to replace that ice cream, leading to nothing but smiles and happiness and making it the happiest place on earth once again for them. And this is a tool that any of us can use. Think about your organization. Think about the people you work with. Do you understand what the purpose is that you're trying to accomplish? See, Disney understands their purpose, right? And that is to create the happiest place on earth. And because that is their purpose, Jenny did everything she could to make sure that she focused on that purpose versus the task. The task would have been cleaning the ice cream, but she thought of something that she could do more important than the task, and that was to fulfill the purpose. And that's why over time I've changed it to purpose over task, because I don't think it's a verse. It's not one or the other, because ultimately Jenny is going to have to go back and clean up the ice cream. So that's still going to happen. But it's about the decision making. It's about her having the tools to understand when to choose one over the other. So I know what you're thinking, and you're thinking, KG, that is a great story, but what does it mean for me? What's the relevance? The relevance is purpose matters in our organization. Purpose matters in our family. Purpose matters in our community. So if you can find the purpose and make sure that whatever that purpose is, no matter what the task is for the time, the task is for that day, that you're focusing on accomplishing that. All right, here's some stats that'll help you understand the value of purpose inside your organization. In a survey done among CEOs, 89% of them said an organization with a shared purpose will have employee satisfaction. 89%. 85% of those said they're more likely to recommend a company with strong purpose to others. And when it comes to transformation, an organization that has a shared purpose will be more successful in transformation efforts. And that was from 84% of the CEOs. So clearly, purpose has an impact on us and everything around us. Our job as leaders is to make sure that everyone understands the way they align to the organization. So remember, this is not about disregarding the tasks. I know that all of us are in a situation where we have to do the day-to-day task. We have to get that report out. We have to do that scripting. We have to do all the things that we have to do our day-to-day work. We shouldn't be disregarding that. But what I want you to understand is if you can try to look at what the overall objective is versus the minutia of the task, you will be in a better position. You will lead not only yourself, but your teams in the right direction always. It'll help you make the right decisions. And that's what a purpose over task is all about as a tool. It's really about a decision point. It's usually trying to make sure that of all the things that you do, if you do something that is more closely aligned to purpose, you're likely doing the right thing. You're likely headed in the right direction. And that's the ultimate use of this tool. That's what makes POT so valuable. I'll give you one more story that may help you understand it just a little further. Now, this is a story that goes a long time back, but it's a beautiful depiction of what purpose over task is all about. This goes back to the space race when the Soviet Union and the United States were desperate to try to be the first into space. President John F. Kennedy had just been elected, and shortly after that, the Russians beat the Americans in the space, having Yuri Gagarin be the first cosmonaut into space. So the Americans had a big task on their hands. So knowing this, President Kennedy really challenged the American people, not just NASA, but the American people, to go into space.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
One of the most famous speeches ever made. And what he was doing was trying to get the entire country excited about going into space. He didn't want to make it a NASA space agency thing. He wanted to make it the purpose of the country. He wanted to get people really behind the effort. So to continue that, what he did was start to tour around the country and meet and greet people. One of those things he did was he stopped at NASA in Houston, Texas, on his way, touring the country, trying to give people a sense that the space race was as important as anything else. And while he was touring NASA, this is another example of purpose over task that I thought was brilliant. And because President Kennedy was quite personable, he made sure that he was saying hello to many people throughout the organization, not just the officials. And one of those people he said hello to was a janitor who was just sweeping the floor one day. And he said to him, "Hi, my name is Jack. What do you do for us here at NASA?" And he simply looked up, not bothered by the whole entourage that was behind him and around him. And he simply said to him, "Mr. President, I'm helping put a man on the moon." So the janitor had another version of purpose over task that he understood. He understood that his task, the day-to-day things that he was doing, was contributing to the overall purpose. So not just that he was sweeping or mopping or whatever he was doing to clean that caught the attention of the president. He was doing something, no matter how minor it may seem, to contribute to the big picture. And he knew that he was contributing to the overall plan of getting to the moon, which culminated with the Apollo 11 landing on the moon in July of 1969. So again, our purpose as leaders is to make sure that people around us understand their purpose, what the big picture is, what we're trying to accomplish. And then they can use purpose over task to help them understand when to choose purpose over the other things. It can also help them understand where the little things that they do contribute to the overall purpose of the organization. It is a great tool, and if you use it wisely, it will do great things for you and your organization. And let me be clear. This is not just a tool for an organization. This can help you in your personal life as well. This is the type of tool that you can use to make sure that you personally are headed in the right direction at all times. When you start to understand when to choose to do the things that align to your personal purpose versus the things that are just the day-to-day task, your life will change. And as we talk about purpose, one of the things that you have to know is that we're describing more in leadership than just our career. So I think about leadership in 3 different ways. And I think about leadership in your career, your family, and your community. Again, that's career, family, and community. And that's the overall sense of who we are and where we need to lead. And all of those combined is what I call the leader's triangle. And it's allowing us to lead in multiple aspects of our lives. And that is tool number 1, but we have a few more tools that I'd like to explore. And now let's tackle the next tool of leadership and innovation, and that is a tool we call Tell Different Stories. This is a tool that will help you communicate to anyone in a more effective way. So I know that we are technologists. I know that we love our gadgets and we love to talk about bits and bytes and so forth. But if you can take the time to learn how to tell better stories, different stories, you will connect with those around you in ways you never thought possible. So what does it mean to tell a story? Telling a story doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be an arc or a beginning and end and so forth. That's not what I'm talking about when I talk about tell different stories. What I'm talking about is the simple art of making sure that you help people connect to the information in a different way. So think about what we do day to day. We give things like reports and defect analysis and requirements analysis and all of those things, but sometimes we don't do such a great job at connecting that information to something that people can feel. So take the simple concept of defect analysis. Have you ever heard that a defect is more costly to repair the later it's found in the software development lifecycle? I've heard that for many, many years, and I know that most of you have heard that same story. And you understand it conceptually, and most of us do. But what if I were able to help you connect to a story that helped that come to life for you? So I'll paint a quick picture. So this is a customer of mine who I worked with for many years. They were trying to do one thing, and that is reduce the cost of defects. And they knew that they had lots of defects that occurred, and not just defects, but they had severity 1 defects that happened in production many times. So we were trying to help them understand what the impacts were and also how they could make sure that they put the right effort into cleaning up those defects. But to do so, we had to convince a steering committee that it was worth investing in a process that cleaned up those defects much earlier. This is a typical defect graph, and what you're seeing is the cost of repair of the defects on one side and the discovery phase down at the bottom. So when we were talking to this customer, we were talking about how much it's costing them over and over again because they're not allowing defects to be found earlier in the process. We gave them a North Star and we said, look, as long as you can find most of your defects before your system integration test or before you integrate with other teams, if you're an agile team, then you are doing so much better. You're able to prevent a lot of the defects that you're having in production. So how do we do this? Well, we gave them a little bit of a graphic that helped illustrate the whole process and why it was costing so much. So we said, if a defect is found early in the phase, it'll cost you about $140. And then as your developers start to do peer reviews and other things, it may cost you a little bit more, but you're still really well off as far as the cost of the defect. And then so forth and so on as you go further and further downfield and closer to production. And then they said, but yes, you're giving us all these numbers, but why is that? Well, I said, well, imagine that the defect cost is driven by how many people are involved in the process. So if a developer finds something by herself or by himself, then it's pretty simple and the cost is fairly low and contained. But as you move further and further into the process, you start to add people. You start to get other people who have to get involved to fix a defect. You have to get other people involved to even test and review the defect. And then as you get closer and closer to production, you get the business involved. You get all of these people involved in the process. And that's what costs you so much money. That is the time and effort that it's involved to fix an issue once it's hit your production systems. Now, doesn't that paint a picture of what a defect means in your organization much better? Now you can understand so much more about a defect and how its costs are incurred across an organization. So telling stories is not just about having an elaborate tale. What it is for you as a leader of your organization, and trying to get people to do things that are different, trying to help them with transformation, is understanding how to give them the context behind everything you do. And that's what telling different stories is all about. The next tool that you have to know about is a tool that we call Be Agile. Now, I know that everyone in this conference, you understand what Agile is. And now I'll have to be honest, I'm not talking about this software delivery methodology Agile. I'm talking about you personally being Agile. Now let's talk about Agile as a tool and what it means to you and how it can help you along the path for leadership and innovation. So the big question is, what is Agile to you? What does it mean to you? For me, growing up, it was someone like Tony Dorsett. For others, it may be your favorite soccer player or tennis star. And yes, for most of us, it is about the software delivery lifecycle. We can't get away from talking about agile delivery versus traditional delivery, but that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is much more than physical agility. It is about our cognitive agility, how we flex and move in our lives, how we can lead our teams in a way that allows us to be flexible, adaptable to change at any moment. And that's what agility is about. And that's the tool that we're going to explore next. So most of you will know the face of this athlete. It is Simone Biles. And Simone Biles is one of the greatest gymnasts of all time. We know that. But this is a story that talks about her agility and talks about how she used it as a tool for greatness. This young lady, her name is Simone Biles. Some of you may know who she is. She is considered the greatest gymnast of all time. Right, she's got 7 Olympic medals. She's done the championships 5 times in a row, and so forth and so on. So a really, really talented lady. But right there, she has a problem. She actually tore her calf in training for a world championship. So she had a partially torn calf. So in her ability to think agile, she was trying to think, how am I going to get through this? Am I going to pull out of the tournament? What am I going to do? So what her coach, Amy Bohr, decided to do is they decided to think differently about the approach. So she does something called floor exercise. Instead of actually landing front-facing like this, she landed like this. So her calf wasn't actually extended when she was able to land. Turns out that that is incredibly hard to do. So much so that the move was then titled the Biles. So she has the new gymnastics move titled after her because she had a problem and then she was thinking agile in her way to resolve it. So, of course, she was able to win the championship, go on to win medals and be happy and all that kind of stuff. So again, another happy ending. I like this stuff. So what does that story mean to us as leaders? It means that it's not about the physical agility. It is about our thinking. And how do we think differently as leaders? I know we often use agile as a term generically, but you can think with agility. And cognitive agility has 3 distinct parts. It's openness, focus, and flexibility. So I've had a background in both television production and music production. And when I think about this concept of cognitive agility, I think about slide rules that you move up and down, a little bit of flexibility here, a little bit of openness here. So you move that down, you move the next one up. That's how I think about agility. That agility is using all of those levers at the right amount at the right time. You want to be open to more ideas when it's necessary. And then at sometimes you need to narrow down those ideas and start to focus on something. So that slider comes down and your focus goes up. At times you need to be a lot more flexible. You need to be able to adapt to change. So that means you slide that flexibility ruler up. But then at times you need to actually get things done. So you need to bring that flexibility down to actually push forward with actions and activities. All of those things in combination create that cognitive agility. And that's a tool that you can use not only for yourself, but for your team and everyone around you. Why is it that we can't be agile? Why are some people more agile than others? Well, the reality is it's the fear of failure. And that's okay. That's a human nature. But let me give you another story that'll give you an example that tells you that failure is okay. So think about the cheetah. The cheetah is the fastest land animal. We know that. They are so flexible and agile in their physical capability. It's amazing. But even the cheetah, with its hunting prowess and skill, fails a lot. So think about it. This is the fastest animal on earth, and no matter what, it doesn't always succeed. A study was done with this prime hunting machine, and out of 192 hunts, the success rate was only about 58%. The fastest land animal on earth fails at hunting almost half the time. And what does the cheetah do? The cheetah has to dust itself off and try to hunt again later. And that just lets us know that failure is just part of life. So no matter how good we are, no matter how much we prepare, we're still likely to fail on a regular basis. So the faster that we can get used to the fact that failure is just a part of life, the more flexible we'll be, the more open we'll be to trying new things, and the more agile we will be. I also like to think about agile is this balance between vision and revision. So trying to think about where we want to go and how we want to do things, and making those little adjustments along the way with openness and flexibility to hone our skills into the right thing. So I know you're thinking to yourself, okay, KG, you've said a lot about agility, but what does it really mean to me? What can I take away from this as a tool? So think about three things. Agile is about a mindset. It's about changing your mindset to be more open to things, understand when you need to focus in on things, and how to be flexible in between. Number two, agility is about acting and assessing constantly. Think about the cheetah. They have to try to hunt, assess, know that it's not going to work. They pull off, they rest, and then they hunt again. They lay low and hunt again. That is what agility is all about. Think about Simone Biles. She was acting and assessing constantly as she made adjustments to her routine to make it better and actually create these new exciting moves that we now know about. And number three, open yourself up for more. That's what being agile is all about, is understanding that you need to open up yourself for more, make yourself more available to new opportunities, and that's agility. The last and final tool that I'll talk to you about is one that you may not think of yourself as being. Some of you will, but others will not, and that is be bold. All right, this is me. Little Carrie, little KG. Now, when I was growing up, I never would have described myself as bold. Never. I mean, you could have given me a choice of describing myself in 100 words, and I would have chosen many, many words, but bold is certainly not one of them. But over time, I've learned that being bold is actually a great tool to use, and it's one of the most important tools we can use as a leader. When I was talking about being agile and being flexible, think about having to make some choices that are bold. Think about having to be flexible enough to make a change when things are already working, because that is bold sometimes. So this is a tool that we need to understand and embrace as leaders, as technologists, as people who are trying to innovate and transform our organizations. Being bold is one of those tools that'll help us for a lifetime. And it wasn't until this accident in the year 2000 changed my world, and it made me think of myself in a different way. And after that accident, I started to see myself in a way that allowed me to be bold more often and use it as a tool. McKinsey and Company did a book and a study about organizations that excel, and they reviewed thousands of financial records, and they found 3 different categories. The category of the lowest quintile, who are losing money, the middle 60%, who are doing what they call incrementalization, right? So they're incremental change over and over again, never actually making bold moves for the organization. But what they found was that the only companies who really succeed, that top 20%, are the companies that made big strategic moves, like acquisitions. They were able to really differentiate themselves from other organizations. So that's actually what counts, not only in our personal lives, but in business. And I want to make sure that we think that way. So I'll close off by just giving you one last story. Our local heroes, if anyone doesn't know who Atlassian is, Mike Cannon-Brooks and Scott Farquhar started it. They were college buddies and decided that this whole agile thing needs software to support it. And there was none. So they went ahead and created some. So the problem is we didn't have a software industry in Sydney, so it's not like Silicon Valley. They could go off and find a whole bunch of software developers. Their next problem was that the .com crash had just happened, so that was not going to help them at all. And they had to start the company using no money, essentially. So they borrowed $10,000 from a credit card. And fast forward many years later, after going IPO in 2015, and the company is worth over $100 billion. This was in 2021. I know the stock market's gone down, but this gives you a sense of how much they've scaled up. So this just tells you, and I'm not saying go start a company with your credit card. That's not what CFOs want to hear, so don't do that. But it is about making bold moves and believing in big moves. So their organization was started with that as a basis. So just like I started the talk off with a couple of questions, I will end with a couple of questions. And one of those questions is this: how would you describe yourself? Is it time to make a bold move to make a difference? As John A. Shedd once said, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. That's it. Those are 4 of the 10 tools in my book, 10 Leading Tools, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this in any way, please go out and grab the book. Please enjoy the rest of InflectraCON 2023, and we'll see you next time. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for this virtual bonus session. We hope you enjoyed it. Learn more about InflectraCON, our live, in-person conference from April 19th through the 21st, 2023 in Washington, D.C. by visiting InflectraCON.com. Stay tuned for more great content, news, and events from Inflectra. Learn more at inflectra.com/company.